Evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 27th Lebanon Board of Works meeting. Our first order of business, or excuse me, City Council meeting. First order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, move on to the roll call members. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mike Kincaid.
Present.
Keith Campbell.
Here.
Sandra J. Stanowski. Here. Sid Robertson.
Here.
John Copeland. Sierra Messenger.
Present.
Robert Hawkins.
Here.
Okay, we have 6 members present, so we'll proceed with the quorum. Move on to minutes from our previous meeting. We have them from July 13th. Any changes, edits to those minutes? Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Rob, from Dick. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. All right. First item up here will be a City Council appointment to the Utility Board. Mike?
Yes, we've been looking for a board member for several months, and I've talked to 4 or 5 different people, and for one reason or another, they couldn't do it. So I reached out to Alan Milburn, who served on the board for 28 years, and he said no, and then he thought about it for a while and decided that he wanted to get involved again. So he has agreed to go on the board. He has a wealth of experience. He'll be a good appointment.
Any other comments? Is there a motion?
I make a motion, we appoint Alan Milburn to the Utility Board.
Motion to appoint Alan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Dick. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Alan, you want to say anything or?
I'll be very brief, but I will say thank you for the appointment. I'm looking forward to a second tour. And I also want the council to know that I will do my very best to do the protect and to support the best interest of not only the Lebanon utilities, but also of this council and the Lebanon and the ratepayers in Lebanon, the citizens of Lebanon. I'm looking forward to it. There's a real challenge. There were challenges when I was on the board, served as chairman of that board before I said I felt it was time for someone else to have that experience. But wherever there's a need and if there's something that I can do and you have the trust and confidence that I can be of service, I'm happy to do it. So I'm looking forward to it, and I want to thank you again.
Thank you, Alan. All righty. Move on to old business. First item up here is Council Ordinance 2026-23. It's concerning the Northgate PUD rezone and ordinance. Ben.
Thank you. I'll give a quick recap. We had an extensive presentation at your last meeting, so we'll just do a quick recap tonight for you here on the second reading of this PUD ordinance. Just a real quick overview of the project. Here's the site that's located on the north end of the community at the northeast corner, generally of State Road 39 and 300 North. Here highlighted in yellow. It's a little over 150 acres, and Braun Property Development is looking to do a mixed-use plan unit development on this site. So that's really, this is one of the projects are really interesting. We went plan unit development because it does include both residential and commercial property proposed in here. Whereas most of our residential zoning districts, you can do a mix of residential uses because this had the introduction of commercial property, made most sense to go the plan unit development route. So this is the site. Here is a conceptual design for that site. You're seeing the higher intensity uses, commercial out on State Road 39 on the west end there. So you've got commercial retail, and then you've got the multifamily, and then transitioning more to townhomes and single family as you go further east and northeast. This is just a quick overview of the districts. You've got, again, the market districts, the commercial retail. The terrace district would be the higher density multifamily. The towns district is something more like the townhomes, a little bit of a mid-density type of residential product. And then the village district then would be the single family. So again, this is a plan unit development. So this came to you from the Plan Commission with a unanimous positive recommendation. And then first reading was at your last meeting. And this is the second reading of the ordinance tonight. If you have any specific questions about the development, the representatives from Braun Property Development are here this evening to answer those questions.
Are there some houses that aren't that weren't purchased, so they're sitting in front of them.
Yes.
Like on a 39, there's 3 or 4 or 5 houses.
Yeah, you have a handful. You can kind of see them represented. There's a handful down here on 300 North and a handful right here on State Road 39. There are some up here at the far north, and I know they're negotiating with property owners to acquire those to get a little bit more frontage there on State Road 39. But you do have some residual residential pieces there.
I'm sure they've communicated with those residents to let them know.
They have. In fact, they actually held a neighborhood meeting and invited all the neighbors. Had what, a dozen people or so, give or take, that came to that meeting. Most of them were just curiosity questions. So they did have an opportunity to sit down with the developer and talk through the development. There's a chance that may happen again once they get further into the design process. Obviously, you see this is very high level right now. So as they get further into the design process, there may be some opportunities to reach out and do another touch point with those neighbors. They can talk more specifically about some design things to help buffer them from the development at that time.
I trust they're not going to be construction 24 hours a day.
Not in a residential district. It's not permitted.
Not within 500 feet of residence. Go
When,
Dick.
Ben, in your TAC meetings, did you talk to the developer about the parcels that are, or where the property butts up to County Road 300 North? The future long-range plan somewhere down the road, 300 North, may be expanded in
Yes.
width. Did you ever talk to them about
Yeah,
allowing?
we've talked generally about what the right-of-way needs for that road, but more specifically, the traffic generated by this development, if they were to have access on County Road 300 North, that stretch between that entrance and 39 is woefully inadequate for any further traffic. So we have talked about that from a high-level perspective, that if they were going to have access on 300 North at that location, we're going to have to work out with them how we're going to improve that county road section, including the bridge, which is only a single lane bridge. So there's some significant infrastructure work that has to be done there to allow that access on that site.
Your questions for Ben? Sandra?
I have a few here. And is that, Dick, what you're talking about? There was an email we got from one of the residents about that widening and possibly harming the others' wells that are there or causing the setback too far into their wells?
Yeah, that would all have to be part of the discussion when we got into the technical details of that. So certainly if there was any adverse impacts to wells, those would have to be addressed. But we don't know exactly what the alignment of the road needs to be yet. This is really just a high level zoning discussion at this point. So once we get further into the details on the actual road design and discussion, that's when we'll start looking at the actual alignment of the road and whether there would be any potential impacts on those neighbors that are adjacent.
That's something they'll know about ahead of time. It's not going to just happen whenever it's
Correct.
decided.
Yes, that'll be part of the planning for the road.
Yeah, tonight we're just setting the rules of the development, the actual building of the development and the plans that actually comes later. Yeah.
I have a few more questions.
Good. Yep.
I'll try to make them brief because I don't want to keep us here
You're
all
fine.
night.
You're fine.
And this is just, every day, there's parks there. It looks like it creates about 17 acres of parks open space. Who owns and maintains the park? The HOA, the city, the developer until it's turned over, or does it eventually become city property?
It is anticipated at this time that it would be owned by the development part and be owned and maintained by the homeowners association.
Maintained by them, okay?
Yes.
And not the city?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clear that up.
We've learned that lesson.
That was one of the conversations early on, since it is a substantial park project, and they did ask whether that would be something the city might be interested in becoming a public park, and I politely declined and said I think we'd prefer it to remain part of private
Thank you.
development.
Now, the other rental restrictions, because it looks like there are some restrictions as far as 10%, that type of thing of the homes that are allowed to be rented. They have to be in it a year before they can actually rent it. Who enforces this?
That'll be enforced by the HOA also. Yeah, so it'll be a covenant and restriction that's part of the development, and so they would be the ones enforcing it. I think with the recent state legislation, I think the city is limited in our ability to be able to enforce rules like that. So this is actually a voluntary commitment by the developer within their covenants and restrictions to restrict rentals, and then that would be their responsibility to enforce.
So we don't know yet as far as enforcement, what happens or anything like that. But I just was wanting to make sure that the city, because obviously we're not going to enforce them when there's an HOA there. But I just wanted to get clarification on that.
Yep.
And the commercial area, Is that required to be done? What's the expected timeline for that? Or is that something that's just anticipated but not definitely set in stone?
It's certainly it's planned at this point. It's proposed at this point. They don't have tenants. They don't have users. So that's something that certainly they will go out. They will be marketing that. But we have a very specific idea with them that, you know, certain types of neighborhood commercial, we're not looking for very intense commercial there. So they provided some examples in their ordinance of what that could be. Hair salons, childcare. We talked about childcare facility would be a great option out there on the north side of the community. So they're looking to try to get some lower intensity neighborhood commercial uses out there.
But the plan is to definitely go through with it, not just,
Yes.
because I think it's a good thing for that area and for that community, in fact, to have all of that available for the citizens. Schools, what about Lebanon Community Schools? Have they reviewed the student generation that's going to be required or happen from this?
I don't know that they've looked specifically at what the student count might be coming out, something like this, but I do know that the schools have been investing a lot of money in increasing their capacity throughout the school system over the last 5-10 years. So the high school has a significant amount of capacity. They just built a new elementary school. It's going to be open this fall, and they've added on to every other elementary school to make sure that they have adequate capacity for the growth that's coming. So they're well aware of what's going on in the city, and they're preparing for it.
They are well aware of this
Absolutely they are.
project?
And also based on their funding, they benefit from having more students in the school as well. So that's part of the having new homes and something in Lebanon is something that the schools have wanted for a long time.
And do you have an idea on the total population when it's full build out?
I don't. They have a unit breakdown. I don't know that I have it in my presentation. I don't know. Adam, you want to maybe address that?
Yeah,
Scott?
You get the microphone. We have dozens watching at home, so.
The village district, which is the single family detached, contemplates about 350 units. The multifamily, which is in the terrace district, is about 250 units. And then the town's district is about 120. So doing the quick math on that, that's about 700 total residential, or 600.
Okay. And then,
If you're looking at population, then the average household population is about 2.5 people per household. So you're looking at between 1,400 and 2,000 people that might live in there once it's built out. And this is about an 8-year build out, give or take. Yeah, this is not something that's going to happen rapidly. It's about an 8-year build out for this development.
it's down here. Stormwater. Will the runoff, after it's developed, will the runoff be less than or equal to the existing conditions? And who maintains the pond?
So the city's stormwater ordinance will regulate detention and runoff from that development and make sure that it has no impact. And we've got runoff rates that they will have to be limited to. Any detention that's part of this development will be maintained by the homeowners association.
It's not all bad. I just had all
Well,
those questions.
typically speaking, development actually improves stormwater because we're actually required to retain it and make sure it's released at a proper rate versus it trying to get off the field as fast as possible. Yep.
The things I like about it, it's a significant open space. The public streets are built to our city standards. I like that. Underground utilities, architectural standards, as long as we stick with those in the renderings, what we show. And the rental limitations is good to encourage new owner occupancy. The trail connectivity, I saw that on there, and the mixed housing types and neighborhood commercial rather than large retail. So I think that's all good for that. I just had a lot of those questions I wanted to get answers before I could vote.
Yep. Wanted to flesh it out. Any other questions for Ben?
I got one more.
Oh, go Dick. Yeah, friend.
Just to add a little bit from what Sandra was talking about, and I'm going back to the park issue too, I guess. Is there any way that we could have it put in the covenants that should the HOA disband, then park property and everything goes away completely?
I
don't know.
That
I've
would be
never
something
seen
we
it.
would want to talk about. I don't know that I would want to see something like that go away.
don't
Because
wanna
that's a
get in a
significant element. And maybe they would want to address kind of HOAs generally a little bit because they've got a lot more experience with HOAs. I know we have a history in Lebanon that's not real positive when it comes to HOAs. They're a lot more sophisticated now than they used to be for sure. So I don't know if you guys want to talk a little bit about HOAs and how they're managed.
That does need to be addressed.
Ben, you know our experience with HOA.
I do, absolutely. I know where the question's coming from.
Yeah. So our experience with the HOAs, and especially like this, is there will be a master HOA that will govern all of the different uses within the development. And then each sub-development will have a specific guidance. And then, like Ben mentioned on the stormwater, they'll have certain guidebooks and things that are developed by the city that they'll have to adhere to. As far as HOAs, they're extremely necessary, right? So there are common spaces like parks and the ponds and things like that are necessary to take care of. And so we are strongly believe that they will be play a huge role and an important role, and they have robust covenants that go along with them. We've never been involved in an HOA nor have any experience with the disbanding of an HOA, because there's usually a collective understanding of guys who's taking care of this, who's taking care of that. So it's really kind of a legal question on how the city handles within their community what happens when an HOA disbands itself. But I think we're legally required to do it. We are big advocates of doing it. We're going to set it up to be as robust and effective as possible. But what happens within the city, I know, like you said, sounds like you guys have some experience, but we have no experience with an HOA disbanding.
We're kind of dealing with the situation right now. What's the result of that?
Okay.
So that's why,
Yeah.
that's why it's on their minds.
Yeah.
So
for
you're
sure.
saying if it's disbanded, it goes back to the developer to handle it?
Our general process with the HOAs is we set it up and we fund it initially and we manage it until like the residential mass gets large enough where it makes sense for the residents to take over the HOA. And at that point, we follow a legal procedure to hand it over to them, and they take over, they form a board and they legally take it over. Like I said, maybe I should know this, but I don't know what happens if that HOA disbands. If it does revert back to the previous owner, I would find that unlikely, but I'm just, like I said, I'm not sure exactly how that happens. I would imagine the HOA, if it does disband, there has to be some sort of transfer of ownership. So maybe an individual steps in at that point in time and buys it or procures it or whatever it may be, but
See, we need some clarification there, because that, you might not have anybody that wants to do that. So we definitely need some clarification on that.
Well, I know we're of one situation that the city's involved in, which I think is very unique, because in that situation, the property was given back to the city and the city agreed to take it on. I think what we're talking about with respect to this development is a hypothetical that is probably several years down. There's going to be a timing requirement by law that if this is approved, that the developer would go through. And as indicated, then ultimately that would transfer ownership to the owners of the development. Presumably, if there becomes an issue at some point, then city code enforcement and all kinds of other things could come into play. But a disbandment necessarily, typically that would be, I would say, in a development, especially of this nature, would be a drastic situation. We're talking potentially 600-700 units. It's vastly different than the situation at least I think you're alluding to, dealing with something that was done several years ago to the city, and the city just agreed to take on that risk.
yeah. One other thing I'll mention is this is a little atypical than a normal subdivision HOA where there's not as many strings attached. So with a master HOA covering the various uses in there, we're going to be involved on it from a management perspective for a very long time. So we will be involved, and it may be in everyone's best interest if the master developer is the backstop in a situation like that. So there's a little more applicability in this case than there would be a one-off subdivision, but we intend on managing it and making sure it functions as indicated for a very long time. It's just always risky, it's just a long time down the road, and who knows where I'll be tomorrow, let alone in 20 years. So.
And I don't think it's going to be a problem, because we have dozens and dozens of other HOAs within the city limit. So we're just talking about this because we had one issue come up. And so I think today's standards, it's just chances of it happening is almost nothing.
Well, but I still think that it'd be nice to have a safeguard somewhere along the way for down the road for the future for other people. We might not be here, but somebody else might not want to have to deal with it. There's a lot of parks in that area with the pond. And if, let's say it did disband, and I'm not thinking it is, but if it did, then there's a whole lot there that's going to be unattended to. And nobody takes it over at that time. I just think it's nice to have a safeguard on that.
Your other questions?
No, sir.
Okay. Rob, you want to read it, please?
Yeah, thank you. Excuse me, Mayor, Council. So ordinance 2026-23 is an ordinance of this council amending ordinance 2024-02, which is the Unified Development Ordinance of the City of Lebanon. And as you know, this council adopted ordinance 2024-02, which again is the Unified Development Ordinance. The city is subject to the Unified Development Ordinance and has been indicated, as we talked about the last meeting, the Plan Commission considered docket 26-22, and it held a public hearing and sent a favorable recommendation to this council as required by Indiana law. So the council finds as follows. I'm not going to read as we've gone through this in detail. It's 32 pages. But the first few pages, again, Exhibit A is the zoning map change. Exhibit B will be the concept plan. First few pages address, I'll hit the highlights, the districts. Again, as you know, there's 5 districts. They will be phased, and number 4 talks about the streets and street signs. Number 5 talks about the open space, landscaping and buffering. Number 7 addresses the owners associations and the covenants that will be required for this, and then signage, temporary structures, as well as the traffic study that's going to be involved. And then each of the remaining pages, as we discussed at the last meeting, goes through each of the village districts or the 5 districts, and they go through a similar process, the intent, the permitted uses, the development standards. And all this, if passed, this ordinance would be adopted in accordance with Indiana law.
Thank you, Rob. Is there any public comment concerning ordinance 2026-23? Any final, actually, Ben, I was going to ask you, would this be the point that you, like, could we, if there are concerns about what happens in a dissolvement situation, is there a situation during the development plan approvals, or is that the process we would set that out, or is that more of a broader ordinance separate from this issue?
Yeah, I think that's something we could look at doing during the plating stage, something that gets recorded with the secondary plats, those sorts of things. So we can work with them to figure out what, if anything, we might want to address related to that and make sure that it's recorded with those documents.
So really tonight, we're just talking about the rules of the development, and then those kind of actual construction or actual development actually kind of comes later.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? A motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Rob. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Thank you, council. Okay, that concludes what I have for old business. Anything from council? Okay, new business then. First item up, we have a food and beverage request from Joy Kaler at the Boone County Cancer Society.
Hello, I'm Joy Kaler. I'm the director of the Boone County Cancer Society. And I'm here because the Battle of the Barbecue is in 2 weeks, August 8th. And I am requesting $1,500 to help pay for the 3 tents that we put up that day. Last year, we had 6,400 people attend the barbecue. So it's a very well attended event. All the money we raise stays local. We give back to local cancer patients in Boone County. So,
Good.
Any questions?
Questions for Joy? Okay. Met with Food and Beverage Committee, Sandra?
Yeah, we met with Joy, and this cause is really, it's an excellent cause, and it's a fun event that they put on, and it goes from 7 in the morning till 9 at night. So with that many people visiting and coming and participating, it's just really a nice event, and everybody knows about it. I mean, it's something that everybody plans to attend.
The morning starts with a 5K also. So that starts at 8 o'clock. People come in from all over. We had 400 participants last year, and we're projected to go well over that again this year. So that's where the morning starts, yes.
Yeah, awesome.
And their proceeds they give back to the Cancer Society. And when we met with them, they requested $1,500 for these 3 tents, which it's very hot when they're there. It's extremely hot. And if it's raining or whatever, they need these tents badly. And they're large tents, they're not just little ones. So in talking, we met and we decided that we would like to offer them $5,000. And we would like the council to consider that because it's a great cause. They bring in a lot back to the food and beverage, back for the community. So this is what we have agreed on to offer them.
We also, we wanted to make sure that everybody was clear that in our talks with Joy, she had talked about some other donors, unfortunately had some that had to pull out. So that's why we thought, let's go ahead and up this to the 5,000 this one time to help them out because it is such a great cause and it does help so many needy families that are battling this illness. So we want to do our part to help them out. And we would like to say that we want to give them 5,000 to go ahead and take care of these tents for you so that you don't have to worry about it and make it easier on you.
And yeah, and backing Rob up, they did have others, but they had backed out. And so if we could help them and make up that difference, it would be huge.
Yes.
Further discussion? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve, let me see, well, Food and Beverage Committee to the Boone County Cancer Society for $5,000.
We have motions. Our second?
Second.
Second from Rob. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you so very much.
Do you want to do one last plug for everybody watching at home? Just remember the dates, how they get tickets, all that?
August 8th, and it looks like it's actually going to be a fairly nice day, so let's pray that it doesn't rain. 5K starts at 8 o'clock. Barbecue starts at 5. Wristbands for $15, all you can eat. It's a great day. It's a great event. Golf cart raffle, I have them if anybody would like to buy one. Silent auction, live band. It's just a really fun day. So thank you guys so very much.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for all your work for the community. Okay, next up, move on to ordinance 2026-24 and also 25 as well. We're going to do these together. This is establishing general terms and conditions of service for telecom service provided by the telecom utility in the city of Lebanon, as well as establishing a schedule of rates and charges collected for the use of and services provided by the telecom utility of the city of Lebanon. So Jeff Jacobs is going to present this. Jeff.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Before I get started, congratulations on the appointment of Alan Milburn to the Utility Board. He will be another, for round 2, will be a great addition, and we look forward to working with him. As mentioned, I'm here tonight to talk to you about 2 companion ordinances covering the Telecommunications Division, or I-Lines, and specifically the terms and conditions of utility service, and then what I-Lines charges for those, the rates. Here with me this evening is Ed Basquel, of course, and Seth Bird. Seth is the Telecom Operations Manager. Just in terms of some background, in terms of what I'd like to do this evening is talk to you about Ordinance 2026-24 and 2026-25 together collectively. Those would be 2 separate public hearings, but I'd like to address them both if that's acceptable. The documents in front of you talking about the general terms and conditions, in terms of a background, there are some regulatory updates that I-Lines needs to make, and those are ongoing. What we're doing is we're pointing back to the I-Lines website for any revisions that are made, and that will allow us to be a little bit more nimble in the future in updating some of those FCC requirements. Fundamentally, what we have done, this should look like a familiar structure to you. We have separated the operational terms, the terms and conditions, from the rates, and that should look very familiar to you. That is consistent with all of the other utilities, and we felt like this was an easier process and just simply makes it a little more nimble if we do need to come back to you and make changes to one or the other. From a drafting standpoint, from a notice standpoint, and operationally allows separating those two documents into two separate ordinances we believe follows the other departments and easier for us to structurally manage. We've also removed a number of obsolete services that are probably long overdue, frankly, that should have been pulled out of our terms and conditions and in our rate ordinance. We've also updated some pricing. We've aligned the pricing with market conditions and operational cost, as well as other utility divisions where we've got a bounce check fee, those kinds of things. And then we've made some structural changes to our timing on cost. Looking specifically at the terms and conditions, 2026-24. Some of the things that we have added and clarified in our policies, we've ensured Lebanon utility access to our equipment on a site in order to enable equipment recovery, or what to do if somebody has not returned equipment, how we manage that. We've also aligned our late payment timing. We've taken that, you'll see in the next ordinance, but we've taken that from 17 days down to 15. And that aligns with what the other utilities do, water, wastewater, and electric. We actually allow for a little bit more time than the Indiana code requires for payment of utility bills. So we didn't feel like dropping this back down to 15 days, which is still more time than normal, was a big ask. And what that does is that allows us to align from a billing practice standpoint. It'll be a much smoother operational system for us. And then, as mentioned earlier, this will point us back to the website for updated policies for FCC compliance. We also make a point to tell people in those compliance notes that they have to comply with Indiana law and, from a regulatory standpoint, adhere to our policies. All right, looking at ordinance 2026-25, dealing with our rates and charges. We have updated those rates to perhaps reflect more current costs, service levels. We've tried to simplify some billing and add some customer-friendly options to the rates. And as mentioned, we've removed a number of obsolete services that are simply no longer offered. We have increased installation cost as well as monthly bandwidth. We have changed what we think will be a customer-friendly change. We've eliminated the flat trip fee for service calls, and that's done in half-hour increments. So that little, hey, my internet service isn't working, come reset the router charge, we think there'll be some savings there. We've established some new fiber categories, the dark fiber and lit fiber, and we've also added some new offerings that can be customized on a customer-by-customer basis. So I am happy to pass off any more technical questions to Mr. Byrd if you have any, but we would welcome your approval of both of these ordinances in front of you. If I didn't mention, they come to you from the Utility Service Board with unanimous recommendations supporting the approval of the ordinances.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm sure there might be some watching or in the audience that are surprised we have a telecom utility. Could you kind of go any further, simplify, explain what iLines is?
Yeah, why don't I let Mr. Byrd do that?
Yeah, that'd be great too. Yeah, got to get him up here to talk.
He is the, I will tell you, in knowing Seth and working with him, he is very passionate about what he does. to and including climbing on top of the water tower to service some equipment up there. But Seth, go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, the telecommunications department, basically our front is we provide internet services in Boone County to whoever can get our service. So a lot of what we've done historically is provide service to the underserved areas. It was operational probably since I think about 2004 is I think when the utilities decided to get into doing internet services. Back then they were looking to do it, I think, via power lines. Then wireless technology came along. They found that they could not only get stuff in the city, but they could also help people in the community that might work or, purchase stuff in the city by also letting them be able to live out in the county, but also have the amenities of a good quality internet service. So we've been doing that for, I've been here 18 years and it started in 2004, so it's been a while. And so we do have about 1,000 so customers throughout the county, some in the city, some out in areas like Advance or Thorntown, Jamestown, New Brunswick, all the way up to Mechanicsburg, up over by Adult Tree Farm, kind of all over the county there. And what we want to do is be able to continue to provide an option. We're not the only option out there. We're not necessarily always the best option, but we try to strive to have good customer service. We try to also keep our rates the same. I've been here and we've never raised our prices to the individual monthly costs to the customers while also improving the services. So they get a flat bill, they get what they expect. We're local, responsive, and we just feel we're a good fit for the community and the county and able to give them something that makes life living out in maybe the rural areas a little easier, especially with the advances and need of technology for school and work and other things like that.
Thanks, Seth. Any questions for Seth from the City Council?
No, sir.
I just have
Good,
one
Sarah.
quick question. When I was looking through the rates and charges, when you look at the monthly bandwidth fee, is that technically the charge every month for the service itself? That's $89.95.
So the way our ordinance is written, if you were reading there, there's a section that says these are establishing the maximum rates and charges. So we have various levels of service from as low as $40 a month as high as $90 a month.
Okay.
So we wanted to keep a cap. So it gives us flexibility as needed to have plans no higher than this, but we can go to various levels as needed to remain competitive and agile there. So a lot of these charges, like even the install fee, that is giving us a maximum. So we don't have to come back here if equipment raises and go, hey, let's modify the ordinance again. We need to raise it $20. It's setting a maximum. We usually charge under these for most of the services. That would be either like installs or the recurring charges.
I just wanted to point that out because seems reasonable compared to a lot of choices that you might see today. So I just wanted to, for people at home, might be something worth checking out if you're around town. So.
And I'm curious, it's 18 years, you said?
I've been here 18 years, correct.
Now, it's available to everybody in the city?
So we are available to anyone within our service area that can get our service. And that qualifier can get our service is most of our technology is a fixed wireless. So unlike cellular or satellite, we have to have a clear view from their property to one of our terrestrial-based towers. So depending on distance, foliage, building, blockage, we can get service to them. So we don't restrict based off of where you live or anything like that, other than if we can't pick up a signal that's usable, we won't be able to provide you service.
I tried back in 2018 and didn't have service there. So
We've added several towers
No.
since, so I don't know if things have changed, but
Yeah, it could change. But I was curious because if it's been, do we have an ordinance already in place or why do we need an ordinance for this business?
There is one. Yeah, jump back up, Jeff.
Are we updating one or?
We're up.
Yes, so this is very much of an update. We have had ordinances in effect, I think, since 2004, and we have amended those from time to time and written over them. What we're doing this time is a philosophical change. One, we're taking our rates and charges and our terms or operational conditions, and we're separating those two, just like all of the other ordinances for each of the other utilities. This, what we've done is, so instead of going in and saying, okay, strike this paragraph, add this sentence, we've completely rewritten that as a fresh start so that there's no confusion and we're not continually adding to an old set of ordinances. We're recodifying this, and this will become the new version of several previously amended ordinances that have been changed and modified over time. But so yes, we very much have operational ordinances in effect, ordinances in effect. This divides it into two and recodifies it.
Thank you. That cleared it up for me.
It's kind of a fresh, like it's like a reset a little bit.
I'm just
and
like 18 years and we didn't have something already?
No, we have. It's just, yeah.
No, we've had I think we were last in front of you in 2022 with some updated revisions to those ordinances, but but you're right. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I wanted to add one thing. I'm Ed Baskell, the general manager of the utilities, but Sandra mostly covered it in her question. And what it amounts to is I-Lines is a line of sight service and it's a rural service. And what Seth means by that is you need to be able to see the antenna. Like if you can see the water tank from where you live, you can probably get service, or one of his other antennas. So a lot of the customers are on the perimeter of Lebanon city boundaries. So Seth, when someone wants service, they have to put out a request, and Seth goes out and does a site survey and determines if they can get service. So there's a lot of people watching that probably look at these rates and think, wow, I really want to support Lebanon utilities and get this service. Well, if you're downtown Lebanon or in a dense urban area, it's probably not going to work, but if you're on the outside of Lebanon, and did I say that right? You're the expert.
I mean, yes, basically. We find that a lot of our customers are going to be more rural. It's just the distance they are away from things like trees and tall buildings just makes the trajectory towards towers much easier to work with. We do have a handful in town. There are a lot more options in town. There's a lot of wireline services. So, competing against those, we might not always be the best fit for what homes inside the city limits look like. We don't restrict between the city or the county, but we do have a lot of people in the more rural areas that are on our service. From a financial standpoint, you can look at it another way, is a lot of the people in the county, that money does come into the utilities and actually help subsidize the operations of the utilities without touching the ratepayers themselves and asking, we haven't, as a department, we're not sitting with any debt. We don't look to do any bonds or borrow any public funds. Everything we're looking to do is to continue to be self-funded and self-operational. And the ordinance changes do a lot to help us be a little more nimble and offer some other value-added services that we wanted the people have requested, but the ordinance kind of tied our hands that we didn't have that service in there. We really can't offer it. Sorry. And that. So that's kind of what we do and how we operate, and the benefit that I think we are to not just the county, but even to the utilities and its operations.
Anything else? No, sir. Okay. At this time, then I'll open the public hearing. Actually, I'll have Rob read it first. I apologize. Let's do 24 first.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. Council. Ordinance 2026-24 is an ordinance for telecom service provided by the telecommunication utility of the city of Lebanon. The city owns and operates a telecommunications utility known as Lebanon Utilities I-Lines for the purposes, again, of providing safe, reliable, efficient communication services. The council has been recommended by the utility board and determined it's necessary and appropriate to establish general terms and conditions of service governing the provisions of the telecommunications services by the utility. And as Jeff Jacob indicated, the utility board adopted resolution 2026-05 and recommended this council pass an ordinance establishing the general terms set forth in the attached Exhibit A. So this council finds that the general terms and conditions for the telecommunications utility of the city of Lebanon, attached as Exhibit A, are adopted and shall govern the provisions of all telecommunication services by the telecommunication divisions of the utility. The ordinance shall take effect upon its adoption and is required by Indiana law.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. At this time, I'll open the public hearing on ordinance 2026-24. Any public comment, please come forward. State your name and address for the record, please, and keep comments to 3 minutes if possible. Seeing no sudden movements, I'll close the public hearing on ordinance 2026-24. We'll take that up for second reading our next meeting, which will be August 10th. All right, Rob, will you read ordinance 2026-25 now?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Council Ordinance 2026-25, again, is an ordinance establishing a schedule of rates and charges collected for the use of and services provided by the Telecom Department of the City of Lebanon. Again, the city owns and operates a telecommunications utility known as Lebanon Utilities I-Lines. The utility board periodically evaluates, readjusts its various fees and charges to collect sufficient revenue in order to pay all the expenses to reflect changes in the telecommunication services provided by the utility. Again, as Jeff Jegg indicated, the utility board adopted its resolution 2026-06 and recommended this council pass an ordinance that would repeal and replace ordinance numbers 05-07, 07-11, 08-09, and 22-24 in order to modify the city's existing rates and charges in keeping with the efficient operation of the utility. So this council would find, again, that a repeal of the broadband over power lines and rates. There's several provisions in here that Mr. Jacob indicated. I don't think that I need to go through and highlight them, but this ordinance, if adopted, would be passed in accordance with Indiana law.
Okay, thank you, Rob. At this time, I'll open the public hearing on ordinance 2026-25. If you need public comment, please come forward. State your name and address for the record, please, and keep comments 3 minutes if possible. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing on ordinance 2026-25. Again, we'll take that up at our next meeting, which will be August 10th at 7:15 p.m. Thank you, guys. All right, next up, ordinance 2026-26. This is the Spring Creek Centerra PUD ordinance amendment. Ben?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a quick amendment to a previously approved PUD, so I will be brief here. So just a reminder for those that are maybe less familiar with the Spring Creek development. This is Gradison Land Development got this approved several years ago. This is the northwest corner of 39 and 300, so just opposite 39 from the development we were talking about a little bit earlier this evening. This was originally adopted by the council in June of 2023. And then there was an amendment done in April of 2025. And actually the amendment in 2025 is the reason we're back here tonight. So this is a quick concept. The overall development in Area B is actually what you see in yellow that kind of runs through the middle of this development. On the original 2023 proposal, those were going to be duplexes. In 2025, they came back and in partnership with their builder was seeing a softening in the market for duplexes. So as an alternative, they wanted to do smaller single family lots rather than duplex, essentially the same size units. They would just basically split them on their own individual lots. And so they made some architectural commitments at that time that were adopted by the council in 2025. Now, as they've gotten closer to time that they're going to start building some of these, section 1 and 2 are under construction right now. The builder looked at some of those requirements that were adopted by the developer and said, hey, this is not feasible. And the one in question is in Area B, they were required to have 2 single-car garage doors rather than 1 larger 2-car garage door. Single-car garage doors are usually either 8 or 9 feet wide. And as we all know, everybody's vehicles are getting bigger and bigger from what they used to be. As an example, in my staff report, I put in there an 8-foot wide garage door, which is 96 inches. A Ford F-150 from mirror to mirror is 95.7 inches. So essentially, unless you're a really, really good driver, you're not getting in there without hitting your mirrors. So what they said is we just don't think this is going to be feasible based on trends in the market. We'd really like to just do a standard 2-car garage door, which will allow a little bit more flexibility on how people park their cars. They will still have windows and decorative hardware on those garage doors to dress them up a little bit. But they said as a compromise, they were willing to commit to a minimum masonry requirement on the front of all homes in the development, not just in Area B. And then they're also requiring all homes to have fiber cement siding. So vinyl siding will not be permitted out here. So, and that would be across the development. So they said, since we can't do this in Area B, we'll commit to some additional architectural requirements across the board, kind of as a compromise on that. So that's essentially what this ordinance does. One, it changes the name of the development from Spring Creek to Centerra. Centera. And then 2, it changes those architectural requirements limit to essentially just reflect what I just discussed. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Ben? Rob, will you read, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Council Ordinance 2026-26, again, is an ordinance of this council amending Ordinance 2025-09, the Spring Creek PUD District Ordinance of the City of Lebanon. Whereas, again, the city is subject to the Unified Development Ordinance, and this council adopted ordinance number 2025-09 on April 14, 2025, establishing the Spring Creek PUD District and associated land use. Again, has been indicated due to the needs and desires, potential users and tenants of the Spring Creek District, it has become necessary to consider amendments to the Spring Creek PUD District. The Lebanon Advisory Plan Commission considered docket 26-35, and which was requesting this amendment with regard to the real estate described in Exhibit A, and forwarded docket 26-35 after a public hearing to this council with a favorable recommendation of 8-0 as required by Indiana law. So this council would find as follows. Again, as been indicated, really just we have one page of changes that you've been provided with. The development name shall be Centera, and that's in Section 1. And then Section 2 addresses the development standard issue that Ben was talking about with the changes.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Any discussion from council?
No, sir.
Any public comment at this time concerning ordinance 2026-26? Seems fair. Okay. We'll take that up at our next meeting for second reading on, yep, you guessed it, August 10th at 7:15 p.m. All right, next up, these next 2 resolutions are related. They are additional appropriations, but I want to give some context for everybody in the council as well. So back last budget cycle, obviously, there were a lot of changes made at the legislature with SCA 1 and how that was going to impact all of our city budgets. And so we kind of took a hard, let's freeze the budget just from a safety standpoint, make sure we were not, make sure we got a handle around how things were changing. Obviously, when you freeze a budget, that includes the staff portions and the staff compensation, which that was, and obviously that's a big part of our city budget overall. I will say, as we've started progressing through some of these things, the legislature luckily has made some changes in the last session. It's delayed some implementation on how the income tax distribution works, things like that are being pushed out to later dates. So it's kind of helped us from that standpoint. But also when these discussions were happening, I had a lot of other conversations with other local leaders, municipal leaders. And when this was first adopted, we kind of all were in agreement that we would just freeze salaries for all employees. And everybody was kind of on that same playbook, just knowing with how things were going to change. And so I stuck to what I said, and we froze our budget. Some of the other officials did not, and they changed their minds or commitments to me. And so what happened is it essentially created a situation now where we've been working very hard to get our staff compensated on a comparable level with other communities. And unfortunately, when we froze ours and they did not, we then fell behind again. So certainly things are still in flux. Things are still changing. I think we're getting to a better place with that, but there are still a lot of ongoing discussions. And so in kind of a compromise, what I've been thinking is obviously we want to recognize what our staff does for us and making our community better every single day. And so what we came up with a solution to essentially do a stipend this year. So instead of a pay raise that was in the budget, do a kind of a one-time stipend. And so what's proposed is a $5,000 stipend per employee. We would use the lit public safety to fund the stipends for the public safety officers. And then we also received a state distribution related to the income tax. The way that income tax works is the state collects the income tax and then distributes it out to municipalities based on their formula. But it holds it in reserve. So it's income tax is kind of like property tax where it lags a little bit. And so from time to time, the state collects too much or it holds back a reserve from the city to ensure that there's not too much differentiation in those revenues. And what will happen is that reserve they're holding grows. And then once it exceeds a certain percentage, they will then just do kind of a distribution. We last got one of these kind of LOIT distributions or lit distributions back in 2016. So some of you guys might remember that were here. We used that to fund some park projects and some road funding, things like that, kind of one-time expenses. And so we received about $1.8 million this year from the state. Again, it was Lebanon dollars, but it was kind of not budgeted. And so certainly if we'd had that before, our budget discussions probably would have been a little bit different. However, because of the one-time nature of that, we thought it made sense to use those funds for this stipend. So that's what's proposed before you. We have it in two appropriations, obviously one from the lit public safety for the public safety officers, and then one for the state lit distribution for the civil employees. So with that, happy to answer your questions from council, address any concerns.
So everybody who works for the city of Lebanon will get that $5,000?
Correct, yes. Yeah, so the firefighters, police officers would receive it from the lit, the public safety lit, and then the civil employees will receive it from that distribution received from the state. Yeah.
One time? It's
Yes,
not
that was
something that happens again?
that was a one-time distribution, yes. And so going forward, certainly we'll have to, as we start budget process here soon, we'll figure out kind of how we then work this into future budgets and things like that. But it's a one-time distribution on that.
So their salary then when we do the budgets coming up, are we looking at their salary as this 5,000 included? Or
this does not amend their base salary.
Okay.
This does not amend their base salary. This is just a one-time stipend recognition that they've been on a pay freeze, and we wanted to again when their peers in other communities received raises, ours did not, and so we also thought that it might be a better, instead of trying to do a percentage basis for employees, a flat adjustment was one simpler, but also we always more struggle with the employees that are on the lower side of the pay scale when it comes to retention. And so certainly having this as kind of I don't want to call it a bonus, but it's a one-time stipend helps us retain those employees when they're looking around at potentially other communities to go work for.
I think it is a good idea to help reward our employees, but I just want to make sure that when raises come next year, they're not going to be essentially
Counting on this?
you missing, not that lump sum of money will have been given to them, but next year they will have missed the raise or
the growth
sorry.
on the
Yeah,
growth
on the raise, because they would have had the growth and then another growth
Right.
on top of that.
Correct.
So I think it's important that we make sure we're assessing that at budget time. That way, if there is additional money there, we're making sure that we're kind of trying to bridge the gap and make it up for all of our employees, if that makes sense.
Yep, correct, absolutely. And that's something that I think that's what we're trying to do. Obviously, there's, you guys know how the budgets work, right? It's a process. And so we'll get firmer numbers, and we'll be starting our budget work session soon to kind of start working through all those of what we project for that. But yeah, there's a lot of things up in the air, I would say, a lot of changes happening at the legislature. They're talking about changing how income tax is distributed in itself, right? And there's some, we have the must meetings happening with the county and with the other municipalities of, do we do a county-wide income tax rate? Do we have a municipal income tax rate? So there's a lot of discussions that have to be fleshed out. And certainly how we retain our quality employees is a big piece of that. And so that's always as a entity, that's always a challenge that we have to address. Yeah, but yeah, agreed.
I agree they all need to be paid for sure for what they do for us. But the thing is, when it comes time for budgets again, we don't have that extra little bankroll that we can say, okay, you guys all get another 5,000 raise or what have you. So are they going to be happy with just getting, the growth, like Sierra was saying, the growth rates? How can we address that and not lose people, in other words? That's why I was asking, is this 5,000 going to be considered part of their salary or not? And you said no. So
No, this is considered a one-time stipend.
I just want to
yeah.
make sure I'm clear on.
I think we've done a good job of getting our employees in the ballpark, so to speak. This is really more of a response to the fact that, again, all the municipalities in Indiana were dealing with the changes of the system and locally certainly as well. And we kind of were all, I was told we were all on the same page, that we were always going to freeze everybody's. And then that's ended up not happening. And so only Lebanon employees received a pay freeze last year. So that's kind of the challenge it's kind of the card we got dealt based on us following what we all agreed to. So I didn't want that to hurt our employees. And so I wanted to acknowledge that. I think certainly they understand though that budgets are, a decision we have to make every single year. It's a process we have to work through. And hopefully the one-time stipend certainly shows them that we want to be a place that you want to work and stay there for your career. But we have to be competitive in the marketplace, certainly when it comes to the talent.
Is this amount enough to make us competitive with the others?
Yes. Yep.
What was the increase of other communities in our area?
Some did 5%. I saw others do similar type stipends, like not a one-time, but like base adjustments as well. It's always a mix between all the different communities. Every community other than us did something. So that's been the challenge. But it's, I saw everywhere from 3% to $5,000 adjustments on the staff. And they were already kind of ahead of us, right? So that creates a challenge. So, because we were not the most, we're not the highest paid municipality, but we were close. And I think we made up for it from working conditions and other policies that we've enacted as a city that makes it a great place to work. But that was the challenge we had. When we froze, they all kind of jumped ahead of us again.
So we're still going to be behind when it comes to, when we sit down and talk about the budget for next year.
We will be, but we will be, yeah.
behind.
Yeah, and I think during those budget sessions, we'll have to have the discussions of what we think is appropriate and what we can fund, frankly, with the changes and how that's going to happen. Are there, your budget's always your priorities, right? So how do we set those? Those will be discussions that we'll have, I think, through our work sessions. But I think this is kind of I'll say an interim step, right, for us to kind of make sure that, we don't lose somebody today because, one of the cities is a little bit ahead of us, right now, but as we're trying to catch up and stay competitive, we'll get there.
You made a comment earlier. What was the amount of money that we received at, I got a question about the 600,000 that's coming out of the public safety lit though. The 155, I understand that because it's going to the police and the fire and so forth, but the rest of that, where's that coming from again?
Yeah, so it's coming from a one-time distribution from the state. We received $1.8 million, about $1.8 million from the state on the income tax. And so what happens is, again,
The supplemental?
it's a supplemental, correct? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the state holds it in like a fund with, Lebanon's name on it. And once it reaches a certain point over a certain threshold, they say you can have the extra that you don't need to have back in reserve. And so we obviously have been growing quite a bit. And so there was quite a bit of money in there. Again, it had been about 10 years since they'd done a distribution. So it's kind of was a larger distribution this time for us.
And I guess my question is, why did that go into public safety lit and not general fund?
It didn't. That was the general fund. The 1.8 was general fund.
Well, I think it's because in our resolution, it says that the 605,000 is coming out of Fund 2241 Lit Co-op share. So that's, I think, why we're all confused.
So we have a public safety lit, right? And that's one pot, and that's where the funds are coming for the public safety officials. However, we also have a lit fund as well for just that we receive normally. That's separate from, because there's a countywide lit currently. So that's what's happened. We like about half of our budget now is income tax already.
But like what Dick was saying, so that didn't go into the general fund, that pot of money, it's going into this lit co-op share fund.
We had to receive it into a special fund.
Okay,
But it is in the general fund, so to speak, but it's a fund line in the general fund,
okay,
if that makes sense.
yes.
But we have to, for county purposes, I think we have to keep it as a separate line tracking.
These two amounts are coming out of that 1.8 mil.
The civil is, so the resolution 39 is coming out of that share. The lit public safety is coming out of a balance we have in the lit fund, in the lit public safety fund, which is about $3 to $4 million in that one currently. So
Like a bonus, they have to pay taxes on that. You have to take taxes out on that.
no such thing as a free lunch. Yep. I mean, it's, yeah. Income is always taxed. That's government's gonna get their share.
Nothing's tax-free.
Yeah. So, answer your questions? All good? Okay. Sherry, I'll have you read Resolution 2026-38, please.
Resolution 2026
Microphone, sorry. Yep.
Resolution 2026-38, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Lebanon, Indiana for additional appropriation. Whereas the City of Lebanon is a duly formed municipal corporation with the state of Indiana governed by its duly elected mayor and common council. Whereas it is the duty and responsibility of the council to maintain fiscal integrity of the finances of the city. At times, it becomes necessary to appropriate additional funds with the approved budget as contemplated and authorized under Indiana Code 36-4-7-9 and Indiana Code 6-1.1-18. It has been determined that it is now necessary to appropriate more money than it was originally appropriated in the annual budget. All additional appropriations require a public hearing of which the council has served proper notice in accordance with Indiana Code 5-3-1. Now it be it resolved and adopted by the council of the city as follows. Section 1, Resolution 2026-38 is to appropriate funds for employee stipend. Section 2, the following additional sums of money are hereby appropriated out of the Fund 2240 Lit Public Safety and for the purpose specified, subject to laws governing the same. It'll come out of personnel services for $155,000.
Wanted to clarify. No, I do want to clarify. Elected officials are not included in this. So this is not me, Tanya, city council. It is strictly full-time civil employees. So not elected officials, just to be very clear for everybody. So at this time, we'll open the public hearing on Resolution 2026-38. If you have any public comment, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Comments 3 minutes if possible.
I will. John Messenger, Parks Director. I think it's fantastic. Thank you all, council. Hopefully you will go for this. Yeah, the employees work very hard daily. They're all in, and I appreciate you by showing this stipend. There again, we need to be competitive. As I said the last time, a couple of weeks ago, yeah, our employees work very hard, and to be competitive, I've kept guys for 2 years and more. Let's keep it going. I think it's great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. Any further public comment? Sam, you want to touch on the firefighter? Sorry, I know you sent me a spreadsheet and I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but I saw you back there, so. To call you out, but calling you out.
Sam Cornix, I'm the district vice president for the City of Lebanon for the Firefighters Union. I sent you guys a spreadsheet probably a couple of months ago. So through the state union, the PFFUI, we actually collect data on behalf of all the departments that are organized and as well as the police departments as well. If you guys want to go back and look through that data, you can, because it actually shows out of the 144 departments in the state that collected data, it shows you what their raises were compared to ours. You know, we appreciate you guys obviously looking into this, but that is something, you know, I do like is the data for that aspect. So you guys can actually see exactly what the neighboring departments did. You can sort by, you know, percentages, even going back to 2018. So if you guys want, it's there. I can resend it if you guys are interested in it. So, but
And Sam, I am correct saying we were the only department that froze salaries in Boone County?
yes. Yep. So Zionsville, just once again, speaking just behalf of Boone County, Zionsville was able to negotiate a small raise, and then Whitestown, they have a collective bargaining agreement. So with that, they're able to continue that as well. But out of I believe the spreadsheet had 145 departments on it. The city of Lebanon was one of, I think, 24 something that received no raises. So I'm more than happy to send you guys that spreadsheet again. So.
Thanks, Sam. Any other public comment? Okay. Seeing no sudden movement, I'll close the public hearing on a resolution 2026-38. Any further discussion comes from council? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion. I make a motion, we approve resolution 2026-38 for the additional appropriation of, and I don't have the amount on here, but.
Yep, you made the motion to approve it. So motion to approve, is there a second? Second from Sierra. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Thank you, council. All right, next up, we'll have Sherry read resolution 2026-39.
Okay. Resolution 2026-39, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Lebanon for additional appropriation. The City of Lebanon is a duly formed municipal corporation within the state of Indiana, governed by its duly elected mayor and common council. Whereas it is the duty and responsibility of the council to maintain fiscal integrity of the finance of the city. At times, it becomes necessary to appropriate additional funds within the approved budget as contemplated and authorized under Indiana Codes 36-4-7-9 and Indiana Code 6-1.1-18. It is determined that it is now necessary to appropriate more money than was originally appropriated in the annual budget. All additional appropriations require a public hearing of which the council has served proper notice. Be it resolved and adopted by the city council as follows. Section 1, Resolution 2026-39 is to appropriate funds for an employee stipend. Section 2, the following additional sums of money are hereby appropriated out of Fund 2241 Lit Co-Share and for the purpose specified, subject to laws governing the same. $605,000 under personnel services.
Thanks, Sherry. At this time, I'll open the public hearing on resolution 2026-39. If you need public comment, please come forward. State your name and address for the record, please. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing on resolution 2026-39. Any further discussion, comments from council? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2026-39.
Motion to approve from Rob. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Sandra. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Thank you, council. I know your city employees greatly appreciate it. Okay, that concludes what I have for new business. Anything from council? Okay, move on to claims. Entertain a motion concerning the claims.
Make a motion, we pay the claims?
Motion to pay the claims. Is there a second? Second from Sierra. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Claims are approved. All right, our next city council meeting will be August 10th at 7:15 p.m. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, yes.
The chairs. Sometime I want to talk about the chairs.
Okay, we'll circle back on the chairs. Yep. Okay.
We can
sorry.
circle back.
I think Kelsey was spearheading that one and she's out. So, yep. All right. We'll circle back on the chairs. All right. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion from Dick, second from Sandra. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We are adjourned again, August 10th, 7:15 p.m. We are adjourned. Have a great evening.
Thank